So the first thing you're going to do when you're out in the field is navigate to your first point using your phone, either in Collector or Google Maps. It doesn't really matter, but you want to have those points pre-designated, and that way it makes it really easy to walk out into the field, know where you're going to sample, and it gives a little bit of randomness. We're out in a fallow portion of a market crops field, so there's a lot of different things going on, but we're going to soil sample in this fallow section. The first thing you want to do is make sure that before you even get out into the field, is that your probe is marked. So we have this marked to 12 inches, and that will give us our depth that we're going to sample to. We have our marked soil probe, and we're going to use this. It's the lightest tool, so if you can use your step probe, then you really want to use that. We're going to put the probe in at 90-degree angle from the soil surface and step down. So it's really important when you're pulling these cores that you don't touch the soil sample with your hands. You can use gloves when you're out in the field. Generally, we don't do that, but you want to make sure not to touch that. And so we use butter knives or a screwdriver in order to empty that soil out into the bucket. So you can just drop that into the bucket. To clear your probe. You also want to make sure that when you're pulling the soil sample that there's not any organic matter between your probe and the soil surface, otherwise that can get caught up. So you can just use your probe to sort of scrape away at that soil surface or your foot, so that way you get down to bare soil. If you accidentally go too deep into the soil profile and past your 12-inch mark, then you can just cut off the end here and dump the top portion into the bucket. You're going for the top 12 inches of the soil profile, so you want to make sure that you're getting the top and moving down. So if you cut some off, you're always going to cut off this bottom portion. Sometimes you'll put the probe in, you'll go down all 12, 14 inches and it'll come up a little short. Don't be too worried about that. You just want to make sure that you're going in all 12 inches. We have different probes that we really like to use in the field. There are these 1-inch step probes. We also have hammer probes. If your soil is compact or it's really dry and you can't quite get down to those 12 inches using your step probe, then the hammer probes are really nice to be able to use. These work great in those really dry conditions, or there's some other obstacle that's not allowing you to get down. So there's two different lengths of these hammer probes, and it's really important that when you're choosing the hammer portion of the probe, that you want it to sit at about chest level, because that's what's going to be the most comfortable when you're hammering that in. And if you're working all day long, if it's too short or if it's too tall, you're going to get exhausted a lot more quickly. So making sure that you have the right extension length and the right slide hammer on that is really important. You really want to check and make sure that these are screwed on tight. They have a tendency to work themselves loose, especially as you're sampling all day long, and they will break if you're not careful. So tightening them up frequently is really, really good to make sure that you're not breaking those. They're expensive, and you want to limit the amount of times you're breaking these. Same applies for the tip. those have a tendency to work themselves loose. Once it's no longer smooth and is pretty beat up, go ahead and replace that. So same principle applies with these. You're gonna scrape the soil away, put that in, and hammer. If you can't pull it straight up or it's in there really tight, you can kind of wiggle this around to create some space. You want to do it really gently because this is a way that will often cause the probes to break. So make sure that you're doing that really gently and then go ahead and pull up on your soil probe. And in order to get the soil out with these, we're doing what we call reverse hammering. So we can just put that in here and hammer backwards. And now we're clear of soil. So now that we've pulled our 8 cores from this sampling point, we'll move on to the next one. We have 5 points that we're sampling from, which gives us a total of 40 cores that we're gonna have in the bucket that will mix up and create a composite sample that we'll bag and send off to the lab. Another recommendation on the hammer probes is these can be really tough on your hands if you're using them all day or the soil is really hard. Definitely recommend taking off any rings you might have. Those have a tendency to tear up your hands more quickly. You can also use gloves. I've worked with a lot of people who like using gloves to protect their hands while they're using these hammer probes.